All right. Let me know when everyone's got eyes on.
I'm good.
Certainement, certainement.
S'il vous plaît.
I should have sent you an 80-second logo put on there.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I gave you the link. I was hoping you'd do it for me, but all right. So again, we're gonna go over GFC introduction. That's what it was geared for, and basically what it is that you need to know as a GFC on the ground to integrate with rotary assets or begin that conversation with a JTAC was part two. All right. So tonight, again, it's the basics of how we're going to take over a unit and so on and so forth. All right. For anyone that wants to do GFC, if you're available tonight, please feel free to come join with me. Training objectives for those individuals tonight is going to be establish working knowledge of GFC role for all in attendance. Discuss the capabilities available to you as a tactical commander versus game master role within the game. All right. Objective three is maneuvering an element to an OP. Subtasks with that are going to be spawn the element, give them a command, and then stop them from moving as well as driving a individual unit on your own manually. Um, Phase two of the operation begins with a link up with rotary assets. Big thing that I'm looking for here is communications etiquette, following formats, ensuring that proper information is passed both ways for all stakeholders involved with the call for fire, medevac, whatever the short-term objective is. And then the last part of that is important notifications. As a GFC, what do you need to make sure you're communicating to those who are supporting you, whether it's fixed, rotary, or any other assets such as the indirect assets as this organization continues to grow? Um, the second to last step is going to be a call for fire. The tonight we will do rotary. The ground indirect we're going to hold off on just because we don't have enough people, and um, I want to make sure that we're not putting too much out too fast. Lastly, a medevac request and what that looks like for both us and to provide you guys some training as well with it on the caveman side, and then identifying LZ. For our standards, I think it worked well last week. We'll probably continue to use red flares and red flares only for medevac LZ markings, and we'll continue that until other features arrive potentially.
I don't know how well the red flares work in the daytime.
They're pretty bright.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can see them. I mean, unless there's like significant cloud cover at your altitude or between you and that position, it's generally not an issue.
Okay.
All right. Again, most of this part here, establish working knowledge of GFC role for all in attendance. All right, the GFC role is actually when you're playing that role in live missions or training, you actually have the ability to screw everybody or basically make or break any scenario that you're in. All right, coming up with those injects on the fly, like Grumpy's already elaborately and so eloquently complained for the last 2 weeks about the medevac calls. All right, gives you that level of realism and injects to get the level of immersion that one actual is going for, and what we're all here to kind of strive to recreate and train and challenge ourselves to. Um, there's not everything you're going to learn in a short amount of time. I spent 16 years on the ground doing this type of stuff. So that's where my experience comes in and why it's like second nature to me. Focus on the basics. Shoot, move, communicate are the three pillars for success in any GFC role within the DCSM community. You got to be able to maneuver your elements and fight. You got to be able to communicate when you need assistance, and you need to be able to do it clearly and concisely. All right. So, for those of you that don't know, is anyone here not familiar with Tactical Commander or Game Master roles and what the differences are?
I
The
I
differences I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. Hey, so that being said, if anybody wants to do the GFC stuff tonight instead of fly, by all means, do that. If you want to learn a little bit about how that works, um, we'll make do with whatever we have. If you guys want to do that, that goes to for any of y'all. Scoot, I know you like doing that pretty well. So if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. We'll figure something.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. So, Tactical Commander, you basically have a JBCP or JCR type Blue Force Tracker FBCB2 mission command platform using the F10 map, right? You get to see some of the friendly units, at least all of the ground units, depending on how the mission is set up and what the communications limitations are put in by the mission editors. All right. Game Master gives you an unobstructed, no questions asked, 100% live picture of the battlefield, to include munitions. I can see everything when I'm in a Game Master role. Typically, for us in operations, GFCs will be running Tactical Commander during an actual MIS and Game Master during training. That is one to kind of help minimize the delays or lack of identifying targets or any of those things in the beginning phases, as well as we need the ability to spawn units on the fly as needed as a game master. And currently with one actual servers, that is only a function that is there for game masters at this time. One big thing that anyone playing GFC has to know is anytime you switch vehicles, even though you are not switching roles, it has the same effect on everything you do. All right, so if you get out of an Apache and get into another one, even though they're both hot started, if you had to change frequencies to get on the frequencies or the put in waypoints, all of that is the same thing. So even though you don't switch roles, switching vehicles and taking control of one and moving to another has the exact same effect as switching a client jet or role within the rest of DCS. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when I had to come off comms for a minute, that was what that was last week. Is I was trying to get the convoy moving again, but in order to try to get the convoy moving again, I had to switch vehicles, which ultimately in turn resulted in me not having comms for a little bit. All right, pre-planning. There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate this. Having your GFC role vehicles separate from any elements, having all of the commands for those elements be automated via the F10 menu, so you can stop them, move them, change their formation, whatever the case may be. The world is kind of your oyster within that, and that is basically going to be left up to the scripting ability of the mission designers. All right. Maneuvering as client versus F10. The biggest one that you're going to see is if you take over a lead vehicle in an element, even if you put it back to autopilot, it has a tendency to sever its link to any of its scripted routes, roles, or commands. So F10 and having those automated is great, but they're very set on what they can do. So that's kind of your pros and cons of having 12 people on the ground maneuvering individual vehicles versus one dude managing, 3 sections of 4 to kind of maneuver them how you want. That's the pros and cons of doing it each way. All right. Linking up with rotary assets. All right, communications etiquette. All right, check in, check out. You guys are all familiar with this, but check in when they come on to station. They're going to be provided a call sign and a frequency by their higher, typically on the air battle command. All right, that higher level echelon of organization is going to say, "A bootleg 11 contact Apache 6 on FM 59.000." All right. Bootleg's gonna, when he's within the AO and within comms range, gonna establish basically like an IP like the jet would do. He's gonna say, I'm in vicinity of this point, wherever that is, how long they're gonna be there, what their ammunition load is, and they're going to either verify their task and purpose or request task and purpose. What do you say as the GFC? That's the next part, right? So all of that is where you have to look at what the task and objectives are for the mission that you have in front of you. So for tonight, it's going to be very simple. We're maneuvering to a point and we want to identify the NAI, we want to identify any enemy there and then destroy it. All right. So bootleg 1-1 on station, 4-5 mics, 8 Hellfire, 32 rockets, 130 mic requesting task purpose, over. Bootleg 1-1, this is Apache 6. I had confirmed grid for NAI 1. They're going to confirm that we're all on the same lingo and looking at the same place. Do they have the information? If not, it's my responsibility to give that to them as a GFC. So we'll say for this instance, they have the grid. We verified the grid. We came to a agreement that we're all on the same page. I'm going to tell him where my troops are. That's the next important piece of information. We don't want friendly fire. If anyone hasn't looked at what happened in Desert Storm, where we lit up Bradley's, it legitimately happened. We launched Hellfires at Bradley's, or maybe it was Hydras, one of the two, and we killed a bunch of our own fucking dudes. And it's not good when it happens. All right, so that's that frontline trace. Where are they at? What are they doing? And are they going to be moving in which direction? So that way, the friendly forces in the air can identify where they're at and kind of keep track on them using their wingmen, while the other is focused on the primary objective of whatever that NAI or target area or objective is that you've provided them, i.e., their task and purpose. Additional notifications that become extremely important: troops in contact, medevac, or identification of an overwhelming enemy force. Do not be afraid to use the rotary as their eyes and ears, as they are there to support you when they come in and check in on station. Don't be afraid to do that. That is something that a lot of people get stuck with is, oh my god, I got a couple $1 million worth of rotary aircraft here, and what do I do with it? They are there to support you if they're on your radio. Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh yeah.
All right. So, after linking up with rotary assets, or once you identify the enemy on the NAI, we're gonna do the rotary cast call for fire. All right. So this is an example of it. Everyone should have it in their
Oh.
knee board.
That's there, the ground check-in brief.
No, is it?
Yep.
No
So
shit.
that's
My slides
the
fucked up.
so that rotary
Yep.
check-in is
You're right.
what you guys have as your knee board right there. It's two things. It's the rotary, the air to ground check-in, and then the battle handover release for station, and those are in the knee boards. So
I got ahead of myself. My apologies.
all good.
So
Right church, wrong pew.
100%. I mean, I don't go. I'm not allowed in churches anymore. Moving on. Once we identify the enemy, we're going to do the call for fire rotary. Again, there is an additional call for fire. As we continue to grow in the future, if we have people that love playing the arty game and want to maneuver paladins, we may end up having an actual gun bunny section. We will see how it grows and where it goes. What that looks like on the rotary. All right, observer and warning order. Aircraft call sign. This is observer call sign. You. This is me. Bootleg 1-1, Apache 6, fire mission, over. They will need to know where you're at before they come in and shoot. So my position, it is very important you announce my position or my location or friendly's location. Whatever it is, one of those three needs to be there. And how you're marked, all right? In a combat situation, if you don't want to do the flares because that's kind of what we're limited to, work with the aircraft and go from there, whether they can confirm eyes on via the grid you give them or whatever other methods and means between you two to establish a mutual agreement that he or she knows where you're at and they're not going to shoot you. Next is target location. If you've got a grid, great. If you got a TRP, even better. If you don't, bearing and range. How far is it? Almost every vehicle in DCS has a laser rangefinder just like in real life. It's not hard to figure out what azimuth you're pointing and how far away from you it is. What is the target? And how am I going to mark it if I'm able? All right. That is one that we definitely need to look at after tonight's training and refine what the SOPs are going to be. A lot of things are very easily done, but are not necessarily realistic. So I'm open to input tonight in the AAR to kind of figure out where we go from here.
So what can you do as a in combined arms? What are you able to mark
So
with?
I can bring up the binos just like a JTAC.
Okay.
So we can do lasers, but the reality is that's not very true.
Okay.
To a lot of things. Now, the only thing that I have found within combined arms is the flare and the binos. Those are my only marking things. Now,
You can mark with smoke too, can't you?
using the binos, yeah.
Okay.
I think you can lasso the laser too. I want to
Yep.
say that it has a visible laser.
Yep. But that is That's probably better for an offline discussion, Grumpy.
Okay.
But there's not really. It's not very realistic, is the best way to put it.
Okay. Well, we just
That
need to
type
figure
of
out. We need to figure out what would be best realistic, and maybe you can't mark with anything.
yeah, and
N-
that's kind of the reality. Is marking with tracers for the average unit is what's realistic.
Okay. Well, then shoot us
And
some shit. Shoot in that
yeah,
direction. We'll find it.
yeah. The reality is obviously at distance that could be a problem. So we could do call for fires with smoke or something. We'll have to figure out what that looks like. But that's one thing that I definitely kind of want to establish an SOP with after training tonight.
Okay.
Last line, enemy threats in the area. If we know there's man patch AAA, it's our responsibility to inform you of any major threats to you. Danger close. All right. If they're within 300 meters of you, you need to make that known so that way they can double check and verify they're not going to, shoot you. A restriction: final protective fires, final protective FPFs and FPLs, or RPRs and RPLs, restricted fire zones and fire lines. All right. If you don't want them to engage anything past a certain northing or easting, that is the line where you say that. So, bootleg 1-1, Apache 6, friendly location, TRP 2, marked by red beacon at your command. They say, or green beacon at your command, or green strobe at your command. He calls it. I launch my strobe or beacon or whatever it is. Boom. Target location, vicinity TRP 1. If we have the graphics and GRGs to do that, even better. If not, bearing 100, distance 1200. Target description: platoon of enemy dismounts in the open, marked by tracers. Over. A copy. Establish. We've linked up. If there's not any remarks, there's not any remarks. He's gonna find it. He's gonna kill it. All right. If they are not sure that they have permission, the aircraft may contact you again and verify at that point. Is there any additional remarks? Yes or no. If there is, you relay at that point. But basically, after line 4, if there are no additional remarks, you have essentially given them all of the information and clearance to fire. All right. Any questions on that? All right. Medevac requests and LZ. All right. We are going to actually train as we fight, and anytime a vehicle is blown up tonight, we are going to conduct a medevac.
That is blew up.
Yep.
There's only one of me, and I've seen you guys drive. I'm sorry.
Yep. I'm going to do better tonight. All right. Any vehicle is blown up, not below,
Blow up.
or during any significant troop and contacts is when you have a medevac. If there's anyone that's hurt and need, so on and so forth, that's you as a GFC to kind of make that. You need to make your best judgment. Know that it's not going to completely divert everything going on and destroy the Miz. All right. As much as I just said, train as we fight. Obviously, this is not always something that is going to happen. It sucks when it does, and you need to use your best judgment so it's not becoming a distraction as much as it is a training opportunity and challenge. And kind of a fine line. If down the road you're ever doing GFC and you got a question, let me know and I'll help you make that decision. I do like to use it, as Grumpy found out, a reality check for making mistakes. We didn't identify those vehicles soon enough. My lead vehicles get blown up, and now we got a medevac to handle. So on and so forth. Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's good. That was a fun inject.
Yep, I was on Game Master that night to spawn vehicles in, so I knew they were there, and that's why I specifically asked them 500 meters in front of the convoy to clear in front of me, and because I knew based on where those vehicles were, their sector wasn't going to allow them to use their toes on me before that, and well, we learned.
Mhm.
All right, 9-line, everyone heard it. Does anyone have a question on this? Was last weekend the first time anyone actually heard it?
I think this
Yep.
is the first time that we've really ever used it.
Okay.
It was really It was really never used in BSD. It was
No,
there, but it was
very
never really.
notional.
It was really never talked
Okay.
about.
Yep. Well,
Defiance, you got something, so I see you light up every now and then.
No, it's a glitch. I mute.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No glitch. I mean, you weren't saying anything. I just saw you lighting up. I thought you might want to say something. The question I do have, refill. If you have you brought this up and looked at it in the open keyboard?
Yeah,
Is
works
it
fine.
big? Is it big enough to write in?
It is and it isn't. Line 1 and line 2 could use a little bit bigger, but they're fine. It's just, yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I'll
So-
make a note of that. And next time we do an update, I'll fix it.
Because if we're not using mist, you can drop that off the bottom there.
yeah, I would suggest that was going to be my suggestion. As if you guys need it for room, remove mist, just
Okay.
because again, it's very much a last 20 years thing, as it more so compared to what it was prior. We have grown accustomed to having more assets in theater.
Okay.
And so all that extra information has kind of became a norm when in reality it's just cherry on top.
I will get rid of it and increase lines 1 and 2.
Perfect. Lines 3 through 9. For typically SOP, this is published by the actual lift unit or medevac. They are obviously within the real world. They're only their own special unit within the battalion or company within the battalion, and they will have a copy of this for everything. Now, with that being said, that SOP carries on to being able to be used as line 3 Bravo, line 4 Charlie, line 5 2 Lima, 3 Alpha, so on and so forth. Do we want to go to that point to make it easier for you guys to just circle stuff, or do we want to actually spell everything out? Since we know for a fact here we are all going to be on the same page.
I'd say just use the
Phonetic.
yeah.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
that cool with everybody?
Yeah, you
Okay.
just that's the way you did it the other night, and that worked out perfectly fine. Even and it makes it easier if you have to transfer, like you had to do the helicopter relay for that. You know, it's
Yep.
makes it a whole lot easier.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be a problem with you guys in VR versus me and my, small notebook I keep here. So, all right. Typically, if you're spinning up from the fob, the cop, the alpha, the FARP, wherever you're based at, 9 times out of 10, the lift is not going to be just hovering around in the area doing what they were doing before, which is why you heard Barundis and them, call it a non-standard medevac last week. Any 60 or personnel carrying rotary craft has the ability to do it, but it generally only the actual medical 60s that do perform those types of missions.
And
They
and
are. Go ahead.
we do have those as well.
Yep.
So that's always an option, and the idea is we get big and we get more people that want to fly the lift roll specifically, then we can inject this a whole lot more to where we always have a dust off moving.
Yep. And so for tonight we can just do a standard we can just do a non-standard so that way you guys get some flight time and practice and you guys get to become a little more familiar with it. In the future, if we do have dust off, typically dust off will be holding at a FARP nearby, or depending on the flight time, to the actual area of operations at a different FARP or their home base, wherever that may be. That comes into play with lines 1 through 5 are the requirement for the bird to take off and head to that HLZ. 6 through 9 can be done while the bird is in the air and communicated directly to the bird, but lines 1 through 5 have to be provided to Air Battle Command or whatever command unit is in between coordinating the medevac. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I need to increase line 5 as well so you have the ability to write notes for litter and ambulatory refill, you think?
No, you just, if there's 2 litter, you put two
Number.
beside the L. If the one ambulatory, you put one B. That's all you have to do is put the number.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I just want to make sure there's enough room to write
yeah,
that in there. Okay.
not 9 might need a little bit of room too. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
I need to fix
I'll-
line 1.
Yeah, especially 9. 9 could be a very descriptive block.
Yeah, I see that. MRGS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
For line 9, DCS, there's really not a lot of places that we're going to, at least for me and anyone that I have GFC calling Medivacs, I will definitely, relay this. But you're either in the trees and you're hating your life maneuvering a vehicle, or you're in the wide open with nothing around you, kind of like it was
Okay.
last week. So I will definitely do my best to find it. I can't guarantee it's always going to be flat, but as far as obstacles, GFC should know in advance not to have you flying underneath or directly over power lines, so on and so forth. If that is the situation, I'm just going to simply say this is DCS, not real life. We don't need to be that complicated. So now, if you guys want that type of a challenge, by all means, we can have a night with, crazy stuff. But that's not something I would expect you guys right now with our early on integration down the road. If it's something you want that challenge, we can definitely do that.
So
Next
if it's
Hills in the mountains
yeah,
would be interesting.
if it's just near power lines, just
Yeah.
near power lines, I can tell you most of the lift guys are really good about landing in odd places.
Yep.
That was one thing that in BSD they had to do a lot: land on slopes, land on pinnacles, land on those things. So yeah, don't be afraid to put that stuff in there a little bit, just for the.
Too
Just
easy.
need a
I
couple
will
of feet.
note that.
Just need a couple of feet clearance on either side of the rotors. That's all.
All right. And for the 60s, what is that again? Off the top of my head, length and width.
Oh, I'll have to look.
That's no, I don't do that. I don't do that. My crew
Hold on.
chief's busy.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'll tell you. Yeah.
Typically, we always just did like 100 by 100 meters and called it
Yeah.
square. As long as we had roughly 100 meters in both directions, we knew we were safe. But that was also in
Didn't claim.
Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Just this ain't like NAM. There's a Medal of Honor winner in NAM that cleared his zone with his rotor blades.
Yeah, that's not smart.
He
But
didn't have a choice.
They used to have metal
Yeah.
blades, so
back in the day, yeah, I can see that.
yeah.
Yeah, they're what, carbon fiber now?
I don't even know.
It's not carbon fiber necessarily, but it's composite. Yeah, read Robert Mason's book, Chicken Hawk. They were constantly doing tree trimming to make those LZs bigger.
I'll take a gander at it.